week, as we all know, and it's a very important week for so many people in this state, and so many people that are both Auburn and Alabama fans. And this is a great game. It's a game that you know, it's a privilege for me to be now part of what would be my 7th one, and it's very unique. And I think that there is just a difference in this game than, you know, I've been in a lot of great rivalries, and there's a difference in this game than most, in my opinion, and just the importance that it has with the fans on both sides, former players, alumni, so many people that, you know, again, you know, hold this game in very high regard. And so it's very important for our players and our coaches, certainly our fans. And we've got a great football team that we're getting ready to play in Tuscaloosa, and we know that. And for us to be able to have a chance to be successful, we're going to have to obviously play the best game we've played all year and be very sound in everything that we do in all 3 phases of our game. Obviously, they're very well coached, and they have some great players. So our work is cut out for us. But again, we feel great about being able to you know, play in a game like this because, again, it's a privilege, and all of our players know that, and it's something that they'll always remember the rest of their lives. So we started preparing yesterday. We're preparing well, and we've got to continue to do that the rest of this week in order to give ourselves a chance to win.
Questions?
Coach, you had big games earlier this season against Texas A&M and Georgia, and guys talked about how excited they were for that. This week, have you noticed anything different about the players' mindsets?
Well, I think so. I just think that what comes with this games, you know, certainly we have a lot of guys on our football team that are from this state, so they grew up, you know, when they were at birth, you know, hearing about this game, and you know, and then quite frankly, the ones that, you know, that we have on our roster from other places, you know, they understand the magnitude of how big this rivalry game is. I think even if you weren't born in the state, you at some point watched it on TV or, you know, have heard about it through the years, and it's just, you know, it's a very unique game. So I think that there's an extra focus, an extra intent, you know, in terms of just being, you know, ready to prepare, and I think it, you know, our team looks at this game, you know, differently.
You talk about going back up there again. I know you talked a little bit about it yesterday, but going up there, or Sunday, going up there again since 2010, and just kind of that game and your memories of that game. And are you trying to talk to them about that this year again, saying, hey, anything can happen?
Well, we talked to them about the history of the game in general. You know, this is the 4th time that I've been up there. This will be the 4th time that I've been up there and played a football game in that stadium. In this game, and you know, we don't necessarily focus on just one game. Obviously, you know, the 2010 game was a very special year and very special game. But you know, we really, you know, we talk about just the history and tradition of the game and the passion of the people and what it means. And obviously, that's part of the conversation. But you know, this is a new year. It's a different year. It's a whole different set of circumstances, you know, for everybody playing in the game and for everybody involved. So we're really trying to focus on the here and now, but we certainly educate them about the importance of the game, you know, and the history of the game in the past.
Coach, a couple of guys mentioned the video they were showing. Can you talk about what's in that video?
Just again, I think it just reiterates, you know, again, the importance of, you know, the game, and really trying to, you know, again, get everybody's attention on the impact that it has on so many people, not just the ones playing in the game. And we, you know, we don't take that lightly. You know, we feel a great sense of responsibility because of so many people that will be affected by this game, you know, come Sunday morning. And so, you know, just again, there'll be daily reminders.
This will be Jonathan's first road start, and I know he played a couple plays of games, but the first road start, and obviously a very tough challenge and tough thing. What have you done to kind of get him acclimated to this challenge?
Well, obviously, you know, the sound factor will be, you know, the noise factor will be something that we started working on yesterday, and it'll be definitely a different venue for him. Again, you know, him being a young man that's grown up around this game his whole life and heard about it and seen it and understands it, you know, it's going to be different for him. But, you know, again, I think he's a young guy that really embraces these type of moments. And I think he's a young guy that, you know, obviously he'll prepare, you know, as a professional like he usually does. And, but it'll be different for him. He knows that. So we just, you know, we've talked to all of our quarterbacks and really all of our team about, you know, again, the poise that you have to have when you go up there, that there'll be, you know, ebbs and flows in the game that, you know, you have to, you know, live through and you know, get to the other side of those valleys that can happen in the game. And, you know, again, I think he's a young guy that you can tell him everything you want to tell him about it, but he's going to have to go up there and get a feel for it and experience it. And again, I think, you know, early in the game it's going to be very unique for him, but I think as the game goes on, like he's really done in all the other games, he'll adapt and adjust.
What's your relationship been like with Coach Saban over the last 4 years, and then what have you seen that's made him so successful?
Well, I think Coach Saban's a great football coach, and again, I think that, you know, I think his body of work wherever he's been really tells the story. I don't think that there's anything that I can say that can inform anybody any differently. I know Nick on a professional level, he's always been very, very professional, very respectful with all his opponents and all his peer coaches, and and likewise everybody with him as well. So, you know, that's my dealing with him, and like I said, he's very successful for a reason, and I think, you know, again, I don't need to tell people all the reasons. I think it's very obvious.
Last week you guys made a lot of changes in the offensive line. Is that something you're still looking at about who might start this
Well,
week?
we'll see, Mark. Again, we'll see, you know, health-wise, you know, as I said Sunday, I think health-wise will play a part in the picture, and we'll make those determinations later in the week.
How's the Westerman doing? Is making progress?
That's, you know, part of what we're looking at right now in terms of health, and we'll know more probably Wednesday or Thursday, but right now it's going to be a wait and see with him.
How about Casanova McKenzie?
Trying to get him back healthy again. You know, again, he's got a little bit of an ankle situation that he's trying to make some cuts on it now. I thought he made a little bit of progress yesterday, but he's going to be in the same boat.
Any update on the free safety position at this point?
No, same deal. We'll wait and we'll look at it, you know, towards the end of the week.
What have you seen from their quarterback, A.J. McCarron? He's kind of evolved, he's gotten more experience there.
Well, you know, I think everything with their offense starts with their offensive line. Number one, I think it's an extremely talented, well-coached offensive line, and I think for a quarterback there's great comfort in that. But he's been very, very efficient. He's very good at protecting the football. McCarron has done everything that I think you do in games to win. He protects the ball. He's got an offensive line that he knows is very, very good at protecting him. He's got a running game that can offset a lot of different pressures, because if you pressure that running game and you're wrong, or you get two guys, you know, in or out of a gap, you know, you can pay for that with a long, you know, explosive run. But I think he has made very wise decisions. I think he's made some really, really tight throws, some throws in some narrow spaces. But it all goes back to, you know, in my opinion, the decisions that he's made. And he's very efficient in his decision making, and he's very efficient with where he places the ball.
It seems like the Iron Bowl has come down, this game has come down to the team who potentially plays in the national championship game. How big would a win be in Tuscaloosa that could potentially upset Alabama's chances to play in that game?
Well, you know, I think that just a win in Tuscaloosa is huge because of what it means, again, to our fans and players and coaches. And, you know, that's really what we're focused on. You know, whatever the ramifications of that means, I mean, they are what they are. I mean, it's obvious. But when you go into a game like this, you know, whatever the situation is, I mean, your number one goal is to win the game because it's the Iron Bowl. And then whatever, again, whatever happens beyond that, you know, like I said, it is what it is. But our number one goal is to go out there and fight, play extremely hard, because this is a very important game for so many people. And obviously a win in Tuscaloosa would be great for our fans and our players and everybody involved that loves Auburn.
Has there ever been a moment in your 4 years where somebody, an alumnus or someone outside the program has talked to you personally about the Iron Bowl and everything it means?
I think that, as you go around and you speak and you are at so many different Auburn functions, I think that that's always part of the, part of the topic that people are going to bring up and talk to you about. So, again, I'm going on my 7th year here, either as an assistant or a head coach. So, I mean, I get it, and I just understand the importance to all those people, all the alumni and former players, that you get calls from and things of that nature. But it's just very important to everybody, and that's not something that goes away, and it's a conversation that's happened, once a year. I think it happens a lot. And just because, again, I think that just kind of really shows you the magnitude of the game.
What usually determines then, through those experiences you've had with the previous games in this rivalry, that determine the outcome that you see?
Well, it's been different. I can go back to 10 years ago, to 2002 when, we had just come off a tough loss to Georgia, and we went down to Tuscaloosa, and we didn't have any running backs, we didn't have any fullbacks. And Alabama was coming off a big win, and we were able to, again, fight through the swings and the momentums of the game and win. And even if you look at 2009 and 2010, the way those two games unfolded, you just got to get through some of the, the peaks and valleys and the ebbs and flows of the game, and that there's going to be things that happen in the game, particularly when you're playing on the road, that you just have to weather. You got to weather the storm. And I think both teams have been able to do that. They were able to do that in 2009 when we went up 14, when they potentially were going to play for the national championship. So, I just think it's one of those games where guys have to continue to play. They have to be able to, expect the unexpected and play through those things. So, it's just been my experience with the game, dating back 10 years ago.
What is it about this rivalry that makes it so intense? When we talked about Michigan, Ohio State, and some of the other rivalries, what about this one? Is it because they're in the same state?
Well, I think that part of what makes this rivalry different and great is that it's different than the Michigan, Ohio State, because people are going to go back to their home states and they'll play it again next year. The Texas OU game would be another example of a game that I've been involved in, which is a tremendous rivalry. It's a great rivalry, but it's different than this one. Number one, you don't have any pro sports in this state. So this is pro football, baseball, basketball, all tied into one. This is what this state is all about. And as you guys know, when you're born in this state, you're usually born one or the other. And if you're not, you got to make a decision real early on which one you are, and then you can't flip. That's just the way it is. So I just think it's, again, it's the success that both programs have had traditionally over the years. There's a long period of time in there where they didn't play. We didn't play. But again, as I've said, the success that, if you just look at the last 10 years, there's been 2 undefeated seasons in the last 10 years in this league, both by Auburn. You've got the last 3 national championships that came out of this state. And, it's just, I think that the tradition in the history of the success of both programs, certainly in the last 25 to 30 years, I think that contributes to it as well. But, people are going to go back to work on Monday and Tuesday after the game, and for the next 360 some odd days, and they're going to have, conversations about it. It's different than when you go home to Michigan or go home to Ohio. Not that those aren't great rivalries. They are. But I think that's the difference in this one.
What have you talked to the team about, or you guys even talked about, obviously, the anniversary of Pump Bama Punt is this year? Have you guys talked about that?
Well, we haven't talked about that specifically. Again, what we've talked about is just, again, some of the traditions and some of the things, some of the games that have gone down in history, and again, what this means. But you know, we'll have conversations, you know, pretty much every day about different things.
Trey Mason's been pretty explosive against the non-conference teams like you talked about Sunday, but the SEC games, it's been more gritty. What role do you see for him on Saturday as far as trying to have some success on offense?
Well, it starts with our offensive line. I mean, that's where it's going to start, and we've got our work cut out for us. It's a very, very talented, physically strong front seven. Again, I think Texas A&M, out of everybody all year, has run the ball the best, but a lot of that was quarterback scrambles, quarterback runs, especially early in the game with their quarterback. It's just hard to line up and you know, run the ball at that front seven, you know, with traditional, you know, running game ideas. But we have to play well up front right now. Our offensive line is going to have to block. They're going to have the best game that they've played all year by far to give Trey Mason or anybody else that touches the ball a chance to run it. And so obviously we know that, you know, Trey's got to have an opportunity to get in there and run it some, but you know, it's going to start with the offensive line.
Alabama's defense has been so good for such a long time now. This year's really been no different. As you've gotten into preparation for them, what areas could they possibly be vulnerable?
They don't have very many vulnerable ones. I mean, you know, you may be able to hit them with a little something here, a little something there, but you know, again, they're number one in our league in just about every defensive category. So that indicates that there's really no weaknesses. You know, that you have to, you know, continue to try to gain field position advantages in special teams. You've got to hope for a turnover, you know, here and there, which again, they're not turning the ball over, you know, much. So there's not a lot of true, what you would be able to say is a weakness on their defense. You know, you just got to, you know, find ways to creatively get first downs and things of that nature and try to, again, hit a big play here and there, but they're hard to come by.